On this episode, we're going to talk about dysgraphia. We're going to jump into some subjects like what is dysgraphia, what are the symptoms, how can you live with it as an adult and as a kid, and so much more. So what is dysgraphia? So dysgraphia is actually a learning disability. And I'm going to go ahead and actually read the actual definition and we're going to dive into it a bit more. So let me grab my laptop. Dysgraphia. It's an impairment of handwriting ability that is recognized chiefly by very poor, often illegible writing or written that takes an unusual long time or great effort to complete. That was a tongue twister for me. So that's the definition in of itself. And it explains over here that people with dysgraphia have a hard time writing. And often when they actually write their own, like whatever they're writing, they have a hard time reading it in themselves. And one thing that's interesting to look at dysgraphia over here, a bit like dyslexia, it's actually a neurological disorder. And just like kids, adults can have it as well. Usually when dysgraphia gets developed within an adult, it's after a brain trauma, and that's actually linked up with your left brighter lobe. And when it gets into a certain contact or any type of trauma, it can get developed afterwards. And when I was doing my research to really find out how many people, or what is the percentage of people that do have dysgraphia, once again, it was extremely vague and it wasn't clear on the aspect of we just don't know the specific number because there's a lot of people that live with these disorders and they don't even know that they have it. So the number was anywhere between 4 to 20%. So it's a quite big range, but that's where it kind of lies. And one thing as well that I found interesting while doing the research over here is the actual word dysgraphia. It comes from a Greek word, dys meaning impairment, and graphia means writing something with your hand, so writing letters with your hand. So it explains it just with the word in itself, dysgraphia, that is having an impairment of handwriting with words or whatever the case is. So this is what it is. And furthermore, before we continue with the rest, like I always say, I'm somebody that obviously, I'm dyslexic, like you guys know. I actually have dysgraphia as well in a smaller percentage or smaller part. It's not my main thing. My main thing is definitely dyslexia. I definitely have experience with this, but take everything that I'm saying with a grain of salt. I am going to link up every single information that I have read about or studied within the description down below. So I'm going to invite you guys to go check that out as well. What are the symptoms of dysgraphia? Now, one thing that's really interesting to see over here to understand is that not everybody that does have dysgraphia has actually a bad penmanship. And in fact, that's my situation itself. My penmanship is actually pretty good. Now, the reason why that is because there's actually 3 categories within dysgraphia that people may have certain difficulties in. Now, the first one is they have a visual spatial issue. The second one is they have a fine motor issue. And finally, the last one is they have language processing issues. So that means if somebody doesn't have the fine motor problems, they're not going to have issues with their penmanship. Now, if you look at other things, like the main categories that really come out and the symptoms that come out when people do have dysgraphia, it is, first of all, the penmanship, like it's mentioned several times during this video. Furthermore, they might have certain difficulties going from cursive to non-cursive writing, or even writing capital letters and non-capital letters. And another thing that I actually found very interesting when I was reading this part over here, it says that people with dysgraphia hold their pen in a different way, and they might even hold their pen a bit too tight, which makes them more tired when it comes to writing. So then I started thinking, I'm like, wait a minute, how do I hold my pen? I don't know if you've ever thought of that yourself. And I started holding it and I started looking at it, and it kind of looks like I'm giving my pen a rear naked choke. So I don't even know if this is the right way to hold it, but yeah, that's the way I've been holding it for years. So that was quite interesting. So the last thing that I want to talk about over here is dysgraphia and the help of technology. Now, as everybody knows, the last 20 years, there's been such a huge compound leap within technology in itself. And that huge leap has actually helped everybody that has learning disabilities. And more specifically over here, people with dysgraphia, it's helped them out because society nowadays, not a lot of people write with their hands. Everything is done online with the computers, even with vocal texting on your phone or whatever the case is. So if you have a bad penmanship or it takes more time for you to write or whatever the case is, there's so many more tools available to you at a low cost to help you out with that in itself. And even in classrooms, because one major thing that people with dysgraphia have is that once they're writing something, it takes them so much effort to write that they sometimes sometimes don't have time to listen to the teacher and write and remember what they're writing. It kind of makes them get lost within that process. And instead of doing that nowadays, you could just record the class and just put it next to the teacher, and you're just so concentrated within what's happening in the classroom, so it helps you out. And all of this, what it comes down to, it helps the self-esteem of the student or the person that does have a learning disability, in this case, dysgraphia. Now, what do we mean by this? It's because subconsciously, some people with dysgraphia may think that other people think, or maybe they even got told that they're lazy or they're sloppy because of their writing and their penmanship, but that's not the truth. So the technology is really leveling the playing field for everybody, which we're extremely grateful for. And I'm grateful for having all these technologies, because to be quite honest, I don't think I would succeed in the level that I'm succeeding as a dyslexic with ADHD and dysgraphia with all of my businesses that I'm doing right now. And technology has really helped us succeed within these righteousness, within these opportunities for us. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video about dysgraphia, because to be quite honest, this is one of the learning disabilities that not a lot of people talk about. And furthermore, if you guys have any other questions about this, or you want to state something or give me any information that I didn't talk about, you could definitely do that in the comment down below. Furthermore, within the description, there's going to be all the articles that I read about dysgraphia, so they're going to be linked up like I mentioned. And if you guys see that there is some value here, do not hesitate at all to like and subscribe to the channel. There's many more great videos like this coming out very soon. So hope to see you guys very soon.